Imagine a scholar who really ventured deep into the heart of Indian society. We're talking everything from ancient tribal customs to, well, even the physical traits that shape communities.
Yeah, exactly.
Our deep dive today explores the world of Dhirendra Nath Majumdar, a pioneering Indian anthropologist. His work, even now, offers these profound insights into culture, society, and even human biology.
Absolutely. And our mission today is really to unpack the comprehensive work of D.N. Majumdar. We want to draw out the most important insights from the sources we've looked at.
Right.
We'll explore his innovative ideas, some surprising findings, and maybe the questions his research still brings up. And we'll do it in a way that, helps you really grasp and remember his key contributions.
Think of this as your shortcut, maybe, to understanding a real giant in Indian anthropology.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so let's set the stage a bit for D.N. Majumdar. He lived from 1903 to 1960. And he wasn't just an armchair scholar, was he?
No, not at all. He genuinely embraced fieldwork, traveled extensively across India, trying to understand its incredibly diverse peoples firsthand.
He really was a master, it seems, at connecting different fields of study, offering what we call a holistic view of human life.
That's the key word, holistic.
So how does someone like that even begin? Where did his journey start?
Well, his academic path started with his Master of Arts in Anthropology from the University of Calcutta. That was back in 1924.
Okay, 1924.
And remarkably, in that same year, he went on his first fieldwork trip to a place called Chota Nagpur.
Wow, straight into it.
Pretty much. But what's interesting is he wasn't just, thrown in the deep end. He was actually initiated into fieldwork by a veteran ethnographer, S.C. Roy.
Ah, so he had a mentor right from the start.
Exactly. That hands-on learning right at the beginning really shaped his practical approach.
That's a fantastic foundation. Then, fast forward a bit, 1933, he heads off to London.
Right. Broadening his horizons. He studied social anthropology with Professor T.C. Haddon and physical anthropology with G.M. Morant. Big names.
And there was another major influence there, wasn't there? Malinowski.
Yes. Attending Bronislaw Malinowski's seminar at the London School of Economics, that was huge for him.
Huge how? What did he take away from that?
Well, Malinowski was a key figure, and Majumdar really absorbed what's known as the functionalist perspective from those seminars.
Functionalism. Okay,
Yeah.
break that down for us simply.
Basically, it's the idea that every part of a society, every custom belief institution serves a specific purpose, like organs in a body, right?
Right.
They all work together to keep the whole system, the society, functioning smoothly. Each piece has a job to do.
So Majumdar takes this idea, but he doesn't just copy it, he creates his own model.
Exactly. He innovated, developing his own framework. He called it the MRRC model. MARC.
MRRC. Okay, what does that stand for?
So M is for man, the human beings, their biological needs, physical characteristics. A is for area, the geographical space, the physical environment they live in.
Got it.
R is for resource, the materials available in that area.
Makes sense.
And C is for cooperation, the relationships, the rules, the interactions between people.
Man, area, resource cooperation. MARC. So it's about how these four things interact.
Precisely. For Majumdar, harmony among these four elements was the key to a society's functional unity, as he called it.
Functional unity, like everything working together properly.
Yeah. And he believed that when these elements fell out of sync, often due to, say, external pressures, the society's unity was threatened. It could lead to disunity or breakdown.
Like a machine where one part goes wrong.
The whole system struggles. That's the idea.
So just thinking about it, for you listening, when you think about your own community, maybe your school or neighborhood, can you sort of see these four elements? Man, area, resource, cooperation, interacting.
Yeah, can you spot how they create a kind of unity? Or maybe where things are a bit out of balance, it's a useful lens.
And Majumdar used this MRRC model in his own work.
Oh, yes. His first big application was in his PhD thesis. That became the book, A Tribe in Transition, a study in culture pattern, published in 1937.
Right, based on his field work with the Ho tribe.
Exactly. In the Kolhan region of Chota Nagpur. His PhD itself was awarded a couple of years earlier, in 1935.
So building on that work with the Ho, Majumdar became quite concerned about something else, didn't he? The decline of certain tribal communities.
Yes, that was a major concern for him. He observed this happening and saw it as a critical issue. He felt that contact with what he called advanced cultures was often putting pressure on simpler societies and leading to their decline.
Which raises the big question, what do you do about that?
And Majumdar had a pretty unique solution, actually. He didn't really go along with the idea of just creating isolated reserves, keeping tribal communities completely separate.
Right, like a human zoo kind of thing?
He wasn't for that, nor was he for just sort of absorbing them completely into what he termed a backward form of Hinduism. He saw that as losing their identity.
So no total isolation, no forced assimilation. What was his alternative?
He proposed something called creative or generative adaptation.
Creative adaptation. What did that mean in practice?
It meant integrating these communities into the broader Indian society, but in a way that genuinely respected their existing cultural traditions. It shouldn't be disruptive.
So change, yes, but as a continuation, not a sudden break. Respecting their ways.
Exactly. Social change should be a continuity. He really emphasized that dominant groups needed to show respect to these communities.
Why do you think he felt that was so important, that creative adaptation path? Why was that better than isolation or just forcing change?
That's a great question. What does respect even mean when we talk about integrating different cultures? It's still such a relevant conversation today, isn't it?
Absolutely. And this whole idea of culture contact, how societies interact, and acculturation, the changes that happened because of that contact that was central to his PhD work with the Han.
Definitely. And he looked beyond the Ho, too. He studied other tribal groups, highlighted practices like Bongaism among the Ho, seeing it as an Indian parallel to beliefs like animism or Maniaism, where spirits are in nature.
Right.
His 1944 book, The Fortunes of Primitive Tribes, covered tribes in Uttar Pradesh. He wrote detailed accounts of the Khasa, the Korwa, the Tharu.
And also groups labeled, well, unfortunately labeled criminal tribes back then.
Yes, groups unfairly stigmatized by the colonial laws of the time. He studied them across UP, Madhya Pradesh, and Gujarat. He really covered a lot of ground.
So from these specific studies of tribal groups, he then kind of broadened his focus again, didn't he, towards village life?
Yes, exactly. He realized that understanding India also meant understanding its villages. So he made significant contributions to village studies, particularly in Uttar Pradesh.
And there's a key book there, Caste and Communication in an Indian Village.
Right, published in 1958, based on fieldwork he did in 1955 in a village called Mohana near Lucknow.
What was the goal of that study?
Primarily to see how culture was changing, especially with all the development programs starting up around that time.
And he took that holistic approach again.
Totally. He looked at the village's recent history, the relationships between caste, religious beliefs, practices, life cycle events, everything.
His village, Mohana, how big was it?
Not huge. About 603 people he recorded, spread across 15 different castes. A real micro-society.
And what were some key findings for Mohana?
Well, one was his really detailed study of intercaste relationships and what he called caste mobility.
Mobility, meaning castes weren't totally fixed.
Exactly. He talked about processes of fusion where groups might merge and fission where they might split. And he showed mobility could be vertical, like moving up or down the hierarchy,
Okay.
and also horizontal, like groups moving geographically but staying at a similar social level.
Interesting. But wasn't there an even bigger claim he made about villages, something that challenged common thinking?
Yes, this was crucial. He argued really strongly that the Indian village is not a self-contained, isolated unit.
Not isolated. How so?
He said they're deeply integrated at many levels with the total social system of the country, connected to wider economic forces, social trends, political currents.
That kind of goes against the old image of this sleepy, unchanging Indian village, doesn't it?
Completely. It was a major correction to that stereotype.
So for you listening, before hearing this, did you maybe picture Indian villages as mostly isolated or connected? How does Majumdar's finding about villages being integrated change how you see communities, big or small?
It really makes you think differently about how societies are structured, doesn't it?
He also had another village study, Chorka Ekgon.
Yes, based on research in Chitora village, Mirzapur district, also in 1955. That one was interesting for different reasons.
What was unique about Chitora?
It was a mixed village, tribals and non-tribals living together. And he noted the tribals there had become, in his terms, detribalized and Hinduized. So a real case study of acculturation.
And something else was missing there.
Yeah, another fascinating point. There was no single dominant caste in Chitora. That was quite unusual compared to most villages anthropologists were studying at the time. It lacked that typical power structure.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. One of Majumdar's most famous works, maybe, is Himalayan polyandry.
Definitely famous. Published after his death in 1962. But it was based on decades of visits he made to the Jansar Bawar region in Uttarakhand. He started going there way back in 1937.
And he found something puzzling there about the population.
Yes, the sex ratio. In 1951, it was skewed only 790 females for every 1,000 males.
Wow, that's a big difference.
It is. But interestingly, he found no evidence of female infanticide, which might be an expected explanation. The shortage of women might seem like a reason for polyandry where one woman has multiple husbands, but Majumdar looked deeper.
And he found the main reason wasn't just the ratio, it was economy.
Exactly. He concluded the chief cause of polyandry among the Jansari people was economic. Specifically, it was a way to avoid dividing the family land, the estate, among multiple sons.
Ah, so if all the brothers share one wife.
The land stays intact, it doesn't get fragmented generation after generation, keeps the family unit economically viable.
That's fascinating. Can you think of other social customs, maybe things you've heard about, that seem strange at first, but might have a surprising economic or practical reason behind them?
It happens a lot, doesn't it? Traditions often develop as practical solutions to specific environmental or economic challenges.
And Majumdar didn't just find the reason, he identified different forms of marriage there.
Yes, he carefully described 3 forms. First, if a family only had one son, it was simple monogamy, one man, one wife.
Okay, standard.
Second, if there were 2 or more sons, they practiced fraternal polyandry. All the brothers were husbands to a single wife.
That's the classic form we hear about.
Right. And then there was a third really interesting one, polyandry.
Polyandry. What's that?
It's a mix. If a family was doing well economically, was quite well off, one of the brothers might marry an additional woman. So you'd have multiple brothers sharing the wives, a combination of polyandry and polygyny.
Wow. So the system was flexible depending on circumstances.
Very pragmatic. It shows how social structures adapt.
Amazing cultural insights. But Majumdar wasn't only focused on culture, right? He also did significant work in physical anthropology.
That's right. He had this whole other side to his research, looking at the human body, biological variations.
What kind of work did that involve?
He conducted really extensive surveys using anthropometry, that's measuring the body, and serology, which is studying blood groups.
Where did he do these surveys?
Across large parts of India, Uttar Pradesh, Bengal, Gujarat, and also specific studies among tribal groups like the Ho and the Gond.
And what did he find from, say, the blood studies?
Well, one interesting thing was using serology to show genetic relationships between different populations. For instance, he found links between people in UP and those in Bengal to the east and Punjab to the west. It helped trace broader connections and maybe migrations.
And within UP itself, he found something related to caste.
Yes, this is a more complex point. He reported finding that caste hierarchy seemed to have a biometric basis. Meaning that castes ranked closely together in the social hierarchy also showed similar patterns in their physical measurements. He actually supported an older idea from Risley about the racial origin of the caste system.
That sounds potentially controversial today.
It is. The idea of a simple racial origin for caste is highly debated and generally viewed very critically in modern anthropology. But Majumdar was exploring these connections based on the data he had then.
It certainly raises questions, doesn't it? Thinking about how physical traits and social structures like caste might be linked or perceived to be linked.
Yeah.
What questions does that raise for you about how we understand group identity or even race today?
It's a deep question. His definition of race, just for context, was fairly straightforward for the time. A group distinguishable by common physical traits, even if they were scattered geographically.
Beyond these population studies, he was also interested in children.
Yes, very much so. He looked into ontogenic development, basically, how children grow and develop. His study of school children in Lucknow is seen as a real landmark for physical anthropology in India.
Landmark study.
And he didn't stop there. At the time he passed away, he was overseeing a huge research project on child growth in UP cross-cultural comparisons. They'd apparently collected data on 30,000 cases already.
30,000. What was he trying to find?
He wanted to tease apart the physical factors versus the cultural factors that influence how children grow, really pioneering work trying to link biology and culture in development.
And he was still working right up to the end.
Absolutely. He was also involved in a study of ABO and RH blood groups among those communities known then as criminal tribes in UP when he died. A truly dedicated scholar.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground. Let's try to unpack this and quickly recap some of the big ideas from our deep dive into D.N. Majumdar's work. What really stands out for you?
Well, first off, Majumdar was a true pioneer, wasn't he? Using that holistic approach, blending cultural and physical anthropology, that was pretty unique.
Right, bridging those two sides.
Then there's his MRC Model Man, Area Resource Cooperation, explaining how societies achieve that functional unity.
Yeah, that was a neat framework.
And his idea of creative adaptation for tribal integration, moving beyond just isolation or forced assimilation, aiming for respect.
A really important concept.
Definitely. And how he changed village studies, showing Indian villages weren't isolated, but interconnected with the bigger society.
That was a big one. Challenged a lot of assumptions.
And his work on Himalayan polyandry, linking it to those practical economic reasons, like keeping family land together.
A surprising economic angle.
Yeah. Then his physical anthropology work, exploring genetic links between populations. And, though complex, his findings suggesting a biometric basis for caste.
Right, the complex part we discussed.
And finally, you have to mention his pioneering studies on child growth and development in India. Really groundbreaking stuff.
That's a great summary. So, thinking about all this,
Yeah.
what does D.N. Majumdar's work mean for us today? What's the takeaway?
I think Majumdar's work is a powerful reminder that human societies are just incredibly complex systems, you know? There are these deep connections weaving together culture, environment, economy, even our biology.
It's all interconnected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And understanding these layers, how they interact, how they adapt to change, it's crucial if we really want to grasp the human experience. So maybe a final thought for you listening. What connections can you see between cultural practices, economic needs, and maybe even physical traits in the world around you today? How might Majumdar's way of thinking, that holistic, interconnected view, help us navigate the changes happening in our own communities and maybe in the wider world?